my phone was messing up, so I had to get rid of it and go back to a new one. So this is live stream number 5. I got the Scarlet already. I toasted in the previous one that I had to delete. So I will say this. In this video today, I'm going to do a continuation of the live stream 2 that I did as far as bullshit jobs and what you need to do. Let's get into it. So a lot of guys, they do somewhat good work, I guess, depending on what you're doing. You make a relatively good living, but it's really hard right now to do basically anything. So what you try to do is save as much money as you can and try to get as much as you can as far as while you're single, if that's possible. But the thing is, a lot of guys don't understand is, and I think a lot of guys shy away from this, and for good reason, is the marriage thing. If you're married and you have someone depending on you, it matters a lot more than if it's just you. I don't know how else to say that. It is a lot, and that goes for siblings too. If you have a sibling you take care of or a family member you take care of, it makes it a lot easier for you as far as responsibility to go and work those extra hours and do what you need to do. I mean, it wasn't uncommon 10 or 15 years ago for people to, oh, I work, people that work 50, 60 hours, 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week were like, wow, that's crazy, but now it seems to be normal. Everyone has a part-time job. You kind of have to in a way because there's no other way to survive. So no matter how good of money you make, if you don't work a second job, a lot of times it's really hard to make it. And I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. It's just something that we have to live with now, unfortunately. So I will say this: if you're a younger guy, listen to this. Please do keep in mind. This is my opinion, but it's behooves of you to get in and make as much money as you can and try to get that 20% down payment on a house. And you don't got to buy the nicest house in the world, but just get one that's nice and in a nice, relatively nice neighborhood where you can get out of your car and go inside your house without any issues. That's basically what you want. You want a relatively nice home that you can afford. 20% if you can put down. And I always do, in my head, I think 20%, 15-year loan if you can. And that's basically what you work toward land, because they don't make any more of it. So you want to try to work as much as you can. But if you're in a program like mine where you don't know if you have volatility, if you're going to be there for 5 years or not, it makes it really difficult to figure out, okay, do I really want to buy something here, or do I want to keep saving until I get somewhere, or if I know I'm going to stay here? So that's basically where I'm at right now. Is I've been saving money, so I don't know if I'm going to stay in Texas or not. So it's a reason why we rent, because I don't know if I'm going to be here or not. And I think it's a good suggestion, to the best of my ability, is if you don't know what your next 5 years look like as far as you're going to be in the local area or not, maybe it's not the best thing to do is to buy a house or a condo. I've had friends buy them, and then the air conditioner goes out, and then something happens, and they have to sell the house, and then they either lost money or they broke even, and then it was just a giant ass pain the whole process. It's yours, sure, but this is a giant ass pain for them, and something you definitely want to pay attention to. And like I said, working side jobs and bullshit jobs, you could take that and invest that in the stock market. You could take it and invest it in a house and buy real estate with it. There's lots of things you can do with it. And the main thing you want to do is try to get rid of any debt that you have. Debt's like a boat anchor. You really don't want it if you can help it. You don't want to take on debt if you can help it. I mean, that will kill you and stress you out more than anything else, because you're not even paying yourself, you're paying someone else, and that's not always a good thing, because that can lead to a lot of stress. And the other thing is if you work a lot, you won't have time to fuck up your life, in my opinion, because you're too busy working. I mean, I've seen so many guys get lazy. They work part-time jobs and they go out and they do dumb shit, and then they get in trouble, or they go out and they chase women, and they end up getting one of them knocked up or whatever, and then that does force them into being responsible sometimes it doesn't. So I honestly think if you just work like you're supposed to, and then you have the resources what you want, then you can live better later on, because you've made the sacrifice to do so. Or you kind of figure out, okay, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm going to do, and that's where you go with it. But a lot of guys don't think like that, unfortunately, and it doesn't make sense to me, especially if you're not married. I mean, dude, it is so much easier to just try to find a bullshit job, like a second job that you can work, and it depends on what you want to do. Do you want to work as a contractor? So, for example, do you want to do mechanic work, body work? Do you want to work as a contract for a business, consultant basically, and where you go and they pay you for whatever you do? Or do you need cash in your hand today where, for example, you'd be working in a restaurant, like waiting tables, waitress, cocktail bar? I mean, you'll be getting paychecks, but you'll mostly be getting cash and tips as well. So that can help you in a pinch, as far as what you can and can't do and how much you can and can't spend and things of that nature. Will help you out quite a bit. And honestly, that's something that I think that all of you should consider is just pay attention to what you're looking for. Do you want to save money? Do you want distinguished hours? You know you're going to be there, or do you want something at will? Or if you need flexibility in your schedule, you can say, I don't know if I want to do that. You have to kind of figure out what you want to do with that. And I mentioned this before is the higher up you go in education, the more difficult it is to find a second job. It really is, unless you know the person. Unless you know who you're dealing with, unless you know it's a restaurant or something, the owner, it's really hard for you to get a second job. I mean, it really is, especially if you have like a bachelor's or master's degree. You can't just walk in and be like, oh, it doesn't work that way. They'll just, you're overqualified, and then they'll just see you later. It's really disheartening. It took me the first side job. I waited tables, and last year. And damn, dude, like it took me 6 months to find a job. But I was using my regular resume. I wasn't using my bullshit resume. I didn't know what a bullshit resume was, and then I just made one up. I made one up that I had used before and used that as I got fired from a job because I couldn't produce certain papers that at a certain duration of time because I couldn't find it because I had moved and I hadn't, and then like way after they'd fired me, I finally found the papers that they were looking for. So that was my fault, but who cares? It was a job. But it took me 6 months to find a second job. And the next one I started working in a restaurant. That's what I mean by the cash. You're going to get paid in checks, but they're not going to be a lot. The check is not going to be an amazing amount of money. It's how hard do you want to work. And if it's a restaurant, you really want to consider, okay, what days I want to work, do I make the most money? And then also is, okay, what kind of restaurant is it? Is it a low-class restaurant, high-class restaurant? And I do miss working there because I really did enjoy the customers. I really did. I really liked working with the customers, and I made really, really good tips there. You make good tips. A lot of it's in cash. So please to keep that in mind. This is alleged, by the way. I don't know if it happened, but this is alleged. So if the IRS ever comes knocking, this is alleged cash that I received. I don't know if I did or not. I don't remember. I may be crazy. I may have lost my mind. I don't know. So, with that being said, they give you relatively straight hours, so you kind of know what you're working. It could be more difficult to get off shifts because many people, they quit or whatever. They're going to try to call you in. Hey, can you work? But if you're working your main job, it's going to be really difficult for you to just drop what you're doing and go over there. Like, it's not going to be possible. So that's something you really want to pay attention to is like, I don't know if it's going to work out or not. And, yeah, so you definitely want to pay attention to that. Whereas if you work contract, you bid on contracts and you say, or you work for a business and say, hey, I wanted to take this job on. You go do the job, you go do whatever it is that you're going to do, and they pay you, well, that's different. You can work kind of whenever you want as far as you meet the deadline or whatever the contract is, as far as, hey, I'm going to do this, but this duration of time, this is when I'm going to be done. You get it done early or whatever, and then you know, hey, I need to finish it by this time. So you kind of make your own hours to a certain degree doing that. That's another thing that you had the availability to do. So please do keep that in mind. That's something that I really think you should keep that in mind. And a lot of these entry-level jobs now, they're not even offering full-time. So if you're trying to enter the marketplace, it's real difficult. Like everyone's fighting for people that use this as their main source of income. They're fighting for 2 or 3 part-time jobs. They're no longer working full-time at a restaurant. They can't. There's no way. I mean, they're not offering full-time to them. Part-time, that could be, and this may sound crazy, it used to be 32 to 35 hours. At least that's what I thought it was. And then all of a sudden it's changed to 20 to 32 hours. And it's like, what? That's a huge range. It's a huge difference in pay. 12 hours is huge per week. If you get $12 an hour, you're looking at $200 or more. If you miss the extra 20 hours of work, that's 200 and something dollars that you're missing out. So that's something else you want to figure out how much money you want to do. And honestly, I would say this as well. I had days where I didn't have a day off for months, and I mean that I didn't have a day off for months. And I don't think that's a good idea if you can bear it. But that is, if you're not in such dire straits, don't put yourself in that position. At least give yourself one day, regardless of what day it is, and say, you know what, I am not working this day. I say, fuck this, I'm not working, and that's it. Don't try to talk yourself into it. Don't try to talk yourself out of it. Just, I'm not working this day, and that's it. No matter what you do. That way you at least have one day where you can rest. I really do believe that's a good thing that you should at least try to do if you can. If you can't do it, then you can't do it. For example, some of my friends, they work in oil fields. They work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, so they don't have that extra day, but they do have the 2 weeks off, and they tend to try to take that break if they can. So basically, that's basically what I'm saying is you want to try to do that if you can. And the best way to find a second job is know the people in your local area. A lot of family-owned businesses, hey, be a customer first. That's how I've gotten a lot of jobs, just being a customer. It's like, hey, I was at a gym and then they're looking for someone to work there. Oh, okay, cool. I know the people. Okay, just fill this application to show up on Monday. Like, they didn't even give me an interview. They didn't know who I was, so it was real easy for me to just walk in and get it. Restaurant, same thing. Eating there many times. And, hey, I see you had this in the door. Oh, okay, yeah. Fill out an application to be here. Do you want? And that's the thing. A lot of these service industry jobs right now is they can't even get people to show up to work. They can't get them to show up to work. So if you know them and like, hey, can I just do an application right now? And you do the application, you just show up. You're like better than 50-75% of the people that even do it because they don't show up. So if you show up and work, it's a lot easier for you. I tried to work for Whataburger last year. I knew the manager and I got on and did the second interview, third interview, and they just like I kept bothering them to give me. They're like, oh, we'll get to it. And it's like, dude, like y'all are just teasing me at this point. Like I don't even want to do this no more. So I didn't do it. I didn't go back. I didn't bother with them no more. And they were offering pretty good. It was like 13 or 14 an hour, but whatever. I didn't have the heart for it anymore. Like you guys keep pushing me, around, and I don't want to do that. So I didn't participate. That's what goes back to what I said in the live stream is what are you inheriting? Are you inheriting a restaurant that's relatively well run? Do you know the owners? This is what I mean. Like if you're our customer, you kind of see the culture they have. You can see it with your own eyes. Don't lie to yourself. Look around. What are the kind of culture? Are they respectful to the employees? Do they help each other? Is people stealing tips? Like things like that. Like pay attention to what's going on. Don't just go in there for I'm a customer and whatever. Pay attention to what's going on. That's the easiest way to figure out is this worth it or not. And that's what happened to me is I see like they're really short staffed. This restaurant is always booming. So two things are going to happen. I'm going to work my fucking ass off. And more likely than not, I'm going to make a pretty good amount of money working here. It may not be a lot of hours, but I'm going to make good money. And both of those things allegedly happened. So that's definitely something that you want to pay attention to is like if it has, for example, a lot of wait staff and no one's there, and you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know if it's a good idea. Yeah, because you're going to be splitting tables with those people. The more employees they have, the less tables you're going to get because they have to separate them. So that's something you got to pay attention to if you're working in the service industry. But if you do a shift work, for example, if you're assigned a certain shift, and this is what I was talking about earlier, when you go into, if you're working full time, and then they just like all of a sudden call you in, hey, can you work the shift? And you're working your first job, you're like, I can't, and you have no idea the character of the boss, if they will fuck you or not. What I mean by that is, are they going to hold that against you? Are they going to start taking hours away from you? Are they going to do things to, like, give you extra work to do when you're working? Are they going to fuck with you? That's basically what I'm asking. It's like, I've had this happen to me where like, I literally couldn't do it. There's nothing I could do. Then they never gave me full time again. After that, I was working full time in another place, and they never gave me full time again. They just wouldn't give it to me, and I was like, man, this is some bullshit. And I kept on because it was really good money, and I was in college at the time. So yeah, it was nice. So I was working IT, I was working the art of shaving, and I was working over there all part-time, but it tallied. And like I said, that was the time I didn't have a day off for like 3 to 6 months. I don't remember the exact time, but I worked every single day. The only reason why I did that is because I was trying to get my wife here to immigrate. So that was easy for me because you have to have a certain amount of income in order for them to be able to immigrate here, or you can't sponsor them. So that's what I had to do. You know, I had no option, which is what I said earlier. If you have a wife, if you have someone that depends on you, it makes it a lot harder for you to say no. Like you really have to work. You don't have a choice. And it took my wife almost a year and a half to even be able to, or yeah, since we started, it was about a year and a half where she could even work. So it was just me working. It was just me doing everything. You know, I'm not saying she has to work because that's not her responsibility, in my opinion, and what we agreed upon. But if she wants to, she can. But that's my responsibility. So that's why I took it upon myself to do what I've been doing. And yeah, so that's basically what I'm trying to say is trying to figure out what you're inheriting. If you're a single guy, man, and I tell all my friends this, especially the ones in the military, like, dude, if you guys are single, there's no way. I would volunteer for every TDY. I'd volunteer for every deployment. I'd volunteer for, I mean, and it makes it look really good in your record. You know, when you go for the promotion, you're like, I did this, 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 and this. You know, you can just look at my paper. You know, look at what I've done, and it just makes you a better candidate. It makes you a better, well-rounded, and you get paid more because you're deployed or you're on TDY. So as far as I understand, I don't know if that's true, but as far as I understand, that's correct. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that goes for other guys too. Pay attention. You know, if you want to uh, figure out how far away is it, like as far as, and this is for normal employees, but how far away is the job, from what you're working. For example, if you live somewhere and you have to drive halfway across town or halfway across the city to work a part-time job, is it worth the gas? You really have to think in your head, like, what is the best thing for me? Where can I work at? What are the hours that work for me? And just be honest in the interview. Like, don't tell them that you work full time. Just tell them, hey, these are the only hours I can work, and that's it. You don't have to tell them anything else. You don't. That's the thing. People like over-explain themselves in the interview, and you don't have to do that. You don't have to over-explain yourself. No one. You're not owed anyone an exclamation for anything. You're not. If you want to give it to them, you can, but you don't owe anyone an exclamation. If you say something you need to be clarified, you can say at the end of the interview, like I mentioned last time. If there's anything I need to clarify, if they want to ask more questions, then let them do it then. But don't over disclose, because that's a good way to get fucking cut right there. Just tell them, be direct, tell them whatever, and that's it. You don't want to tell them, a gigantic story and drama and all this other stuff. That'll get you not returning. That'll get you where you don't get the job back. And like I said, please do keep in mind, like I said last time, if you're in an interview, they need you. So you are interviewing them as well. Not just, don't be, oh my God, desperation. But sometimes you do have that, where you just got fired or whatever, and you're like, fuck, man, I really need somewhere. Okay, then that makes sense. But a lot of the times, if you're looking for a second job, you're looking for something just to make money, it's not like, oh my God. It's just like, hey, I'm looking for this, and this is the hours I'm looking for, Because they're going to ask you, how many hours are you looking for? And you tell them, well, 20 or 30 or whatever. Actually, if you want less hours, start with more. So, like, for example, if they tell you, well, and you kind of know this, right? So you've done your research and you're like, okay, this company maybe gives 20, 25 hours. So you can say, well, I'm thinking maybe like 28 hours, 27 hours. So just make up a bullshit number like that. And they'll say, well, we're offering like 20, 25. Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's what I'm looking for. If the company offers normally about 32 to 35 hours, you can tell them the same thing. Well, I'm looking maybe 32, 35, but, if you need a floater, that's another thing you can do is if you need someone to float shifts. So what that means is like you're going to be on call, which kind of sucks. When you tell them, hey, if someone's not working, just schedule me to work. You could do that too. Where you don't really have a work schedule, you just say, hey, look, if you need someone calls in or whatever on this shift, just call me up and I come work, And I did that when I was in college. I had that a lot where I would just be called into work and I'd go work. And yeah, it worked out great for me. Made really good money doing that. That's something else that you have too. I mentioned the contracting. I mentioned the standard shift, and the next one, like I said, is the shifts where you just float shifts. And what that means is, if I define it as, is where someone calls in, hey, you're on the roster. They know you can work this shift. Can we call them up and we'll see if we can get them to come and work? So that's a good way to get some extra cash if you need it. If you don't need a whole bunch, you just want something to do. That's a good way to do that. Um, there is a time of year that will help you out more than any other, and that time is around Christmas and Thanksgiving. So a lot of people were looking for holiday workers or seasonal or temporary, some kind of bullshit like that. Look at that in the description. And I actually started working at the Art of Shaving as a seasonal worker. I worked there twice as a seasonal worker. Then they finally gave me part time. So that is how I got my foot in the door. Because yeah, it wasn't great as far as like I really wanted to stay on part time, but hey, I was working seasonal, and then it ended up becoming part time. It ended up becoming what I wanted to, where I could make some money out of it, which is something that you really want to pay attention to, you guys. Is it may not be what you want right now, but if you stay there and if you try to make your way as far as what you're trying to do, and you get it the way you like it, then so be it. But during that time, if you don't get it to where you like it, you have that experience on that bullshit resume to hop over here or go find another job. That's in the same kind of area. It's a great thing to do. As I said, keep the bullshit resume, keep it alive, keep it going. It's the best thing you can do for yourself, especially in this economy that we have right now. It's really bad. I mean, as far as trying to figure out what's going to happen, we have no idea, and that makes everything a lot more stressful, and that's okay, I suppose. But for me, it's not. But I mean, some people, I guess it's okay, but I don't think it's all right. And it's probably only going to get worse. So I honestly think that, like I said, figure out a part-time job you're looking for. Honestly, the reason why I started working waiter, as I told you guys before, is I thought, man, I'm gonna work, I'm gonna make money, I'm gonna work really, really hard, and I'm thinking in my head is like, do I pay $40, $50 for gym membership, or do I just wait tables? And I thought to myself, wait, you could save $40, $50 a month, and you're exercising, you're working your ass off waiting tables. You're gonna lose weight, dude. You're gonna be walking. You're gonna be doing exercise, and you won't have time. You're gonna be on your feet, and you're gonna be hustling, and you're gonna try to make as much money as you can. And I always did that with every customer I had. I didn't care how many tables I had or what I did. I always tried to take care of my customers, and you know what? It always showed up in the tip. And some people, they may not tip very much, and that's something to do with waiters is like they may not tip very much, but you know what? If they come back to the restaurant and you talk to them and you treat them like human beings, and I mean this, some wait staff is just horrible, and if you treat them nice and you treat them, hey, my name is such and such, what can I, it's your first time here, just talk to them, and you get to know them. Maybe after the second, third time, they may start tipping you, and then you become relatively friendly toward them, and you remember, hey, how you doing, how's your family, such and such, you can talk to them like that, because you've seen them, they're a customer. And that first interaction you had with them, they may not tip you that great, but maybe they had a bad year, maybe they had a bad week, maybe they had something going on, and they just wanted to escape from that moment in their life, and they wanted to come to that restaurant so they could get away from that, and they wanted a good service, and you gave it to them, and they remember that, so they want to come back. So please do remember that. If you're waiting tables, I've seen it so many times. Like I remember 3 or 4 customers. First time, I got to wait tables. Really bad. I mean, not really bad tip. It was like maybe $3 or $4. Maybe $2. A couple of them. And they came back, and then I was getting $4, $4 to $8 sometimes. Allegedly. This is alleged, by the way. So, but this is what I'm talking about. Like you see him, and you're like, hey, how you doing? This is a customer, and so on and so forth. If you work and fill shifts, a lot of times the managers are going to preference you, and a lot of people get real jealous and shitty about that. So please do keep in mind with that too. Like, don't tell them anything about your private life. Don't tell them about you have this job and you doing this, and don't. That gives them jealous, and they'll try to get you fired. So don't do that. Just kind of keep to yourself, and that's it. Don't over-explain. Don't think people are your friend. They'll be the first ones to put a knife in your back. They're the first ones to, when you cut the grass, see the snake laying there. So that's basically it. So please do keep that in mind. If you do have a second job, don't tell anyone at the first job. And don't tell anyone at the second job that those 2 things are happening. Because you don't want jealousy. You don't want anything going back and forth. Not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. You don't want to mix the 2 of them. Yeah, it could be really bad. If you can help it. Like, for example, where I was working at, we did have people where I worked at normally. they would come in as customers, so they knew I worked there. But I just go out and be like, hey, I didn't do that. That's not something I want. I don't want attention for it. So a lot of times I don't do stuff like that unless someone asks me. And then I'm like, yeah, I do this. But many people that know me know I work a lot. I work like 2 jobs, and then I've been doing YouTube as well. Obviously, you guys subscribe to me, so that I consider that a work that I do as well. Like, I really want to get started into editing videos and stuff, which is a whole nother topic and everything. But right now, I'm just doing what I'm doing to try to keep everything going and keep the subscribers and keep you guys uh, looking at the content and see what I can do. And like I said, I built this channel for guys and what we can and can't do, and as far as you know how you want to live your life, what you can do, and think about, hey, uh, think about this, think about that, and kind of figure out yourself. What can you accept about yourself, what you can, things of that. Trying to make yourself better is basically what I'm trying to do. It's why I made this channel, and um, I've been watching content forever, and even before then, I feel like I have lots of life experience because of the situation that I was put in. What I mean by that is I was an only child, and my dad was in the military, and my mom, so I was alone a lot. So I have a lot of experience of being alone, and I don't know if that's really a bad thing or a good thing. It's just how it happened. So I had nothing else to do besides educate myself. Like, you don't need a university to go educate yourself, and anyone with a brain can tell you that. And so this is what I'm talking about. Like, as far as the working wise is, you can educate yourself. For example, if you're going to wait tables, or you're going to work at Pizza Hut, or you're going to do, think in your head, it's like, okay, if I'm going to work at a gas station, what YouTube videos can I watch? And you start thinking in your head, okay, maybe I can, start thinking, okay, this, and if you're waiting tables, okay, what videos on YouTube can I watch to where I at least can have a background knowledge of what I'm working with? And this is the thing, people mistake intelligence for wisdom, and they're not the same thing. Wisdom is way better, and that'll keep you from getting killed. Like, wisdom is like, okay, intelligence is like, oh, I know how to read a book, and I know how to, like, can you go fix that? Can you produce, pretty much? I mean, in my opinion, that's what wisdom is like, you're wise enough to know what to do in a situation. And what you do is, when you get those jobs, if you're not sure of them, say, hey, look, I'm familiar with it. I've watched tutorials on it. I've done, like, even if you have no experience in it, you can tell them, look, I have gone out of my way to try to learn these things. I've gone out of my way to give myself some kind of background knowledge. And they're going to find that, entertaining a lot of times. It's like, okay. And I even told people before, hire me. And if I suck, fire me, let me go. Don't put me on the book, like, look, I'll keep the track of the hours. And if you don't like how I work, then don't invite me back. It's worked a couple times, tell them, hey, I have no experience in this, but you know what, dude? You guys don't got to pay me. Let me come in here. Let me work. If you like how I work, I'll keep working for you. If you don't like how I work, then all right, cool, man. No problem. See you later. Have a nice day. Real easy. I've done that many times, as far as, I'd say 3 or 4 times in my life, and it worked out every single time. Besides one, they asked me to do dishonest things, and I told them I'm not doing that. So, yeah, that's a whole other story within itself. But yeah, they asked me to do dishonest practices, and I told them, yeah, I'm not doing that, because whenever they come investigating, I don't want to be a part of it. So I got fired for that, which I don't care. It doesn't bother me, whatever. But the other times, it has always worked for me. It's like, all right, cool. Yeah, so please do keep that in mind. YouTube is a great resource. That's how I learned how to, like, wait tables and hold different plates and figure out how to hold 3 or 4 cups in my hand at one time, and how to bus tables, and how to interact with the ticket system, and how to help other people, and the wait staff, and all that kind of stuff. And you can do that anywhere you work. How does O'Reilly's work? How does this ticket system work? Do you know what it is? Do you know how to use it? Do you know what parts are? Do you know what to look for in the cars? Do you know certain models that come in? What are regular, as far as what are usually broken? Things like that. You have to really think in your head, like, how can I educate myself to where I'm competitive, even if it's a part-time job? It's still worth it, because more likely than not, you're going to make a better reputation for yourself, and you're going to give yourself more on that bullshit resume that you're trying to make. And also, that doesn't mean stop with your first job. With the first job, you really want to try to go with that as well. Which is why I said you want to try to move up in both if you can. Keep one going and keep the other one going. You can even become like a part-time manager. Some part-time managers are only part-time. As far as, and I know that sounds silly, but like a part-time manager is part-time. Like it says part-time manager. So you may work 32 hours or 28 hours or whatever. But you still have that responsibility of the assistant, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You can work the first and the second shift, and then you could have, like I said, you need at least one day where you're just like, I'm not working, I'm not doing anything. Like I said, I mentioned that before, so please do keep that in mind. And the way the gas price is, like I said, please do keep in mind, keep it in the local area. Don't try to go really far and think, I'm going to make a lot of money and work a second. It is not worth it. The gas, especially the gas right now, if you're driving, like I said, halfway across town, like, is it really worth your gas to go over there? I don't think so. I don't think it is. And, yeah, it's just not worth it in my opinion. So I've really been thinking about this lately, and I honestly think that if you can get an apprenticeship like I have right now, this apprenticeship as a mechanic and doing body work and painting body work, that's even better. I would say that's like the cream of the crop of what you can do as a second job. And what I mean by that is, I started off with like programming, software engineering, so building software, so designing, the design, the requirements, the design, the diagrams, the building the software, the coding the software, the testing, the QA of the software, all that stuff, and then then it's into production, and then you have to go there and you have to make the software, or you have to go and maintain it. So you really have to think in your head is like, okay, this is an applicable skill that I learned, right? And no one can take it away from me. And that's why I'm so big in the trades. Is like, when I got this apprenticeship, it was like, dude, like, this is another thing in my belt, like my belt, my utility belt, pretty much, is like, no one can ever take that away from me. Do I know how to do this? Sure. Am I proficient at it? No, I'm an apprentice. But they took me on. Am I going to get paid a lot of money? Probably not. I'm an apprentice. But do I care? Absolutely not. It's helping me. It's doing what I need to do. And they're really patient with me. And they're showing me, they're taking the time out of training me with the availability. They know that once I know these things in my head is, you could possibly move on. Do I want to? Absolutely not. I love where I work at. These guys are awesome. If you guys ever see this video, thank you so much for taking me on and teaching me, and that's because I was a customer, like I was mentioning earlier. I was a customer. So what I mean by that is, so this is the second time I've done this. So I was a customer. I had my Ford Falcon. I cut out the floor pans inside of it, and I had it welded. And the welder needed people. He was like, hey man, like I just me working. I have no one helping me, and when they do, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And I told him about the second floor pan he did, and he can't. This is like for 2 or 3 months, and he was just had all these projects, and he had no one helping him. And I said, hey dude, like, I will come over here and apprentice with you. You don't have to pay me a lot of money. I just want to learn. And he's like, dude, honestly, I just need someone with schooling. You don't have it. I said, no, I don't. That's true, but if you ever want to call me, here's my phone number, whatever, just call me. I don't mind. Just show me something simple. That way I can help you, whatever it may be. Even if it's just like a gopher bitch where you want me to go get parts or you want me to go get, I don't care. You're apprenticing. You're trying to figure out what are the metals, how does it interact with, there's so many things to learn from that. You think, oh, well, I'm not really learning. Dude, you're trying to figure out what are these, how does it interact with this metal, and stuff like that. So, and the second time I asked was the apprenticeship and doing what I'm doing now, the paint and body, which is awesome. Because I not only learn how to mix stuff, learn how to sand it and to tape it off and all that other kind of stuff. So it has worked out in my favor just by asking. These guys are like, yeah, we need help like right now. We can't get people really to show up. So, we're going to do this as a contract, which I mentioned earlier, contract hours. And it's like, look, man, when you're here, you're going to get paid. And when you're here, we're going to give you assignments to do, and you're going to do them. And if you need help, let us know. And that's basically how it's been the whole time that I've worked here. And I love it. It's not like a normal job. And that's one thing I love about it. It's like, hey, you're going to do this, do the assignment, and that's it. And I really, really enjoy that about that job. It's because no one's telling you, oh, you know exactly what you need to do. And if you have any questions, they're very open about it, where it's like, hey, come to us, let us know. They're not like thinking like, oh, you're stupid or whatever. Like, you're an apprentice. Like, it's not something you can learn overnight, which is something that I really do like about a lot of blue collar guys. Is a lot of them, they're really cool. It's like they remember when they were like you, where it's like you don't know a lot of stuff, so you're naturally going to be inquisitive, and you can't get pissed off at them. They just don't know. And that's something that I would say is, if you can get a second job try to do a trade, because it can be taken away from you. There's nothing that can be taken away from you. It's in your head. And that's awesome. That's really awesome. So please do keep that in mind about, what you can and can't do. And the trade is, like I said, that's probably the cream of the crop of a second job. And I would say be as a prince. But like I said, it depends on what you want. Do you want to make a lot of money? Are you trying to make some money, but you're trying to figure out what you want to do? And this is what I'm trying to explain to you guys, is there's many different avenues. Like when you sit down and you think about it, there's so many things you can do. What do you want to do? Which leads to the video that I posted, several times, is like, have direction in your life. What is the direction? What is the goal you're trying to set? What are the steps you're doing to get there? You may not see the whole staircase, but at least try. Get in the fight. At least do something. And you know what? If you fail, who cares? You were still going for it. And that's basically all I'm trying to say, is like, get in the fight. Try to do something. Get something where you can at least get up on your feet and get going. A lot of the times, a lot of guys, I've seen this, with some of my subscribers, is they work one job, nothing is going on in their life, and then they're like sad and they're depressed. It's like, dude, you have time to be like this, and some of those things are legitimate, okay, that's sure, then those things need to be addressed, and I have a video about that, going to counseling and seeking counseling. But if you keep yourself occupied, it's really, really, really hard to start thinking about the stuff, because you're keeping yourself occupied doing things, like, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. You don't have time to be like, oh, woe is me. You just don't have time. You got to go work. You got to do things. You got to pay those bills. You got to save money. What am I striving for? What am I going for? That's being ambitious. I've been making a lot of money, but it's yours. And yours, and you can figure out, what do I want to do with it? How do I want to invest this? Do I want to buy land with it? There's so many things like you can think of in your head of what you want to do with it. Please do keep that in mind. Always have a goal with that second job. Is like, am I going to use this money to pay off debt? Am I going to use this money to save? Am I going to use this money to invest in stuff? Am I going to use this money to start up that business? Am I going to use this money to invest in the YouTube channel? Am I going to use this money to go on vacations because I really need a vacation? Do I want to explore the world? What are you using it for? And some of those things can be rearranged. Do you need to do this first? Do you need to do that first? You kind of figure out, what are the priorities? What are the requirements you're trying to figure out? Like, does this need to happen? This need to happen? This need to happen? And you can build in your head like that. Write it down. Like, hey, this is, and don't be unrealistic. Be realistic with the goals you want to make. It's a lot easier to reach them if you do that. So many guys get caught up in, oh my God, and they just get like brain overload. And it's like, dude, like, you got to figure out why you're doing stuff. You can't just go do it, because then you're just like existing, and that's not going to be fun. It's not, it doesn't give you any kind of value to yourself or anything. And this is another thing I want to say too. If you do get that second job, try to find where you only work one day, as far as you have one or the other. So if you can have at least one day off and only work one job or the other, it'll allow you to have at least somewhat of a personal life. You want to have a personal life. So many people get caught up into, I'm this. And all it is the qualifications of their work. They don't even know who they are. And then they're the ones that die like right after they retire. Like within like 3 years, they're like gone. And you're like, what happened? It's like they never had a personal life. I don't understand that, but I've seen it where they're just like, I'm this and I'm that. And it's like, dude, like, put the tape measure away. Like, we don't have to measure dicks here. Like, you are, but dude, like, and that's what I can say. Like, what I do for a living doesn't know who I am. It's just like, this makes money. I enjoy doing it, so I'm going to do it, but it's not who I am as a person, and I don't put it as a part of my ego. And I think that's acceptable, depending on what you're doing. I think it's acceptable. And this is my fucking opinion. So please do keep that in mind. But don't work yourself to where you don't have a personal life, because then you're going to be burnt out. You don't want to burn out. You want to have to where you can at least have somewhat of a personal life. And then you want to start getting to where you maybe even cut back on those hours if you have to sometimes. You don't always have to work the same hours, where sometimes you may want to work where you get more and more hours, and then some months you may think, I don't need that much money. Why do I need it for? How much money do you really need? Think about that to yourself. And that's something you're going to have to weigh and balance in your head, is what are the requirements of what you're trying to do. So Yeah, and that's something I had to learn when I was younger. And I was working like 3 jobs, and I was going to master's school. Like I was getting a master's degree at the same time. So I was doing all that and work, and then I would sleep sometimes, and sometimes some days I wouldn't sleep. I wouldn't sleep for several days, and it wasn't always fun. It wasn't great. A lot of that, and you can look in those pictures during those years, and all you can see is black underneath here. You can see black under my eyes, and it was hard, and people think, oh, woe is me, but it was totally worth it. And that's the thing is like, so many guys like quit right before they get there. And it's like, dude, just keep going, like a little more. You got it, man. You got it. And that's the thing is, my life felt like just a giant disaster. And then like after I completed everything I wanted to do, it was like it all came into focus all at once. And then the problems that you have now, you're like, dude, if you'd have told me 2 or 3 years ago those would be my problems, I would not believe you. Or like, this is crazy. Like, there's no way I believe you. And that's basically what I'm talking about. Is like, you'd be amazed if you actually sit down and figure out what do I want to do and how do I want to do it and what is this going for, and then you start doing it and you're like, dude, like the stars align in your head and it's awesome. I really, really can't say that enough. It really is. It's an awesome feeling inside, and that's what she said. So please do keep that in mind. Is pay attention to that. Seriously, give me 1 second. Get some more water here. Oh man. This is something else that I also thought about doing this as well. Is like, if you do get an apprenticeship and you are working a full-time job, but in your heart it's not what you want to do. In your heart you're thinking, I don't know if it's going to make a lot of money, or it's just not what I want to do. And you're starting to work at that second job, and you're like, or that apprenticeship, and you're like, damn, I really like this stuff. Should I go to school for this? You know? And maybe you can go get that trade, that 10-month trade, and you get that certification. You've been apprenticing, so you already had the time in for it. They may be able to use that. I don't know. You have to look at the laws and the regulations, but hey, I've been apprenticing in this, and I really want to do this. And you go and you tell them, hey, this is what I want to do, and then you go and you get the certification in it, and you think ahead of time. A lot of people, they just like, I'm going to get a degree, but they don't pay attention to, okay, what can you do with this degree? What can you actually do with it? Whereas if you're doing body work, hey, I can do body work. This is awesome. If I go to school for this, how's it going to help me? Is it getting me qualified? Is it better? And a lot of times the trades is, can you do it or not? Can you produce or not? That's all they care about. They don't care about anything else, really. I've seen that so much. Is like, they care if, can you produce? And that goes with any second job. Is like, keep that in mind. Don't let it affect your first job as far as the if you're tired or whatever. And please do keep in mind, you're going to have to produce. So if you get a second job and a first job, remember, you're going to have to produce in both of them. You can't just be lazy in one or the other. You're going to get fired, and then you're really going to be up the creek. So please do keep, like I said, keep the priorities straight. As I said, also try to keep that day off, and I've said this like 4 times now. Try to keep a day where you have off, and then try to keep one day where you only work one. Or at least have some kind of personal life. It's always something I recommend. Don't overwhelm yourself. It's not worth it if you can help it. There are some situations where you may have to do that, and that's that's what you got to do. When you don't have any other option, then I guess that's what you're going to have to do. But if you have the option, please do what I'm saying. Seriously, for your own mental health and your own physical health, do what I'm saying. And when I say a day off, I mean like a day off where you just relax. You don't really do anything. Make sure it's a rest. All right, and I think for today, that's basically it as far as what I'm thinking in my head about the second job, what to do, different paths that you can go on, things you can think about when you're working. And I believe that's probably the best thing for you. Please do keep that in mind. Like I said before, if you guys haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe down below, and then I'll have the daily content on the Instagram that I post. I usually post every day on there. So go ahead, it'll be in the description. And I think I'm going to do another one of these probably Saturday, maybe, and I'll announce that. I'm not sure of a time yet. I haven't figured out a time yet. But I will more likely not do one Saturday. It'll be in the afternoon, probably. Not 11, because that's a little early for me this Saturday, so it'll be probably later on. But we'll go with that. And with that being said, y'all have a good day.